progress.
Hello and welcome to the Charles Cook Podcast. I'm back again. I'm glad you could join me for another podcast. The focus of this podcast is on state and local issues here in the state of Tennessee. And you can follow me on Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcast, TuneIn, and Alexa. Just search for the Charles Cook Podcast. You can also find me at Charles Cook 52 on Rumble. And just like and subscribe on any of those platforms, and you'll be notified when I upload new content. You can also find most of those links on my web page at charlescookpodcast.buzzsprout.com. And if you'd like to submit an idea or come and join me on one of my podcasts, just email me at charlescookpodcast at gmail.com. All right. So it's been basically a week since the governor of the state of Tennessee did his State of the State address, telling us how things are here in the state of Tennessee and his budget plans for basically the next year going into 2023, 2024. So don't know if you've had a chance to watch that or not, but if you haven't, I would suggest that you go on YouTube and pull it up and watch it if you live here in Tennessee. I think everybody should, if you can, watch it and hear what your governor's thoughts and plans are for the state and everything, and see if you can see your legislator in the audience, state senator or state rep, see how they react to the governor's announcements. So anyway, basically in the address, he starts out talking about, the state being in such a good shape that Ford chose to come to the state of Tennessee because of the way it was run. We're so physically responsible here. Well, Ford come to the state of Tennessee because we basically gave them right at $1 billion. So to locate here. And that's just a fact. We probably outbid other states. And so let's just make that clear. And then after they come here, they stuck their nose in some of our COVID mandate stuff and kind of help drive the policy on some of our masking and state issues. So just be aware of that. So he also says, and I'm just going to give you a quick rundown of basically some of the highlights of his address. He says last year, if you remember, for a month they cut sales tax on groceries, food items at the grocery store for 1 month. That's a good deal. I mean, saves us some money. So this year they're going to try to do that. Of course, this is all in the budget and it's got to be approved by the legislature. So keep that in mind because there's some things in here that needs to be pushed back on. Just because you have a Republican governor doesn't mean it's a fiscally conservative budget. So they want to extend it to 3 months this year. It's a good thing. I mean, it saves people money. I mean, I'm about saving money and paying less taxes. And that's why I have some issues with this budget. So another highlight from it is he says they're going to put $250 million more into the state's rainy day fund. And he says that when industry and corporations decide that they want to come to Tennessee or to a state, one of the things that they look at is how big is the state's rainy day fund? So he's wanting to add another 250 million, I get that correct, $1 million to the state's rainy day fund. And then he goes on to say he wants to add that we have 26 billion, that's B, billion with a B, backlog of road projects across the state. So we're behind on $26 billion and across the state on getting road work done. Now, remember now, we just, what, 6 years away from maybe 6 years, 7 years away from passing a gas tax increase here in the state of Tennessee under the second term of Bill Haslam. We're into the second term of Bill Lee. You know how these guys work when they don't have to worry about running for reelection. Says we have to change the way that we fund our roads and bridges. And he introduced the Transportation Modernization Act. Transportation Modernization Act. So it's going to be a public-private partnership to build choice lanes on Tennessee highways. So notice he said choice, not toll roads. But if you drive on them, you have to pay for it. Okay. So it's going to be a public partnership, public private partnership to build these. And then, you know, you'll have to pay to drive on. But he doesn't call them toll roads. He don't like the term toll roads. He wants it to be called choice lanes. You'll have a choice whether you want to drive on or not. Okay. So wants to put $3 billion towards that. And then he wants to put $300 million for local highway plans. He says we can no longer kick the can down the road for another 4 years. He kicked the can down the road for 4 years until he got reelected. And then right after his reelections, when he introduced this stuff, because he didn't want it to be an election issue. And now he don't want to be held accountable. That's why they introduced this stuff in their second term. So people who, I understand why they push for term limits. Just remember, when a politician can no longer run for reelection and they can't be held accountable by the people during the election season, you really find out what they're like. Okay, keep that in mind. So that was it on the toll roads, as I call them, is choice lanes, but you will pay to drive on them. He wants to train and skill work. He wants to train 10,000 skilled workers each year, and he's going to invest $1 billion in Tennessee College of Applied Technology, TCAT. And, that's a good place to go get training. We've got one here where I live. They went in and built this thing. It's really nice. And they have some good skilled jobs there where they can train people to do things. So, as I said, he's wanting to train 10,000 new skilled workers each year. So, and that's why he's wanting to invest $1 billion in it. That's, investing in teaching people how to do skilled labor. I'll say he also, the TISA, I guess is what he called it. He wants to invest $350 million in that, and it includes $125 million for pay raises for teachers. a proposal to increase teachers' starting pay, um, basically to $50,000 a year here in the state of Tennessee. And he said that basically when he came into office in 2018, the starting teachers' pay salary here in the state was $35,000, and he wants it to be $50,000 by the time he leaves office. That's starting pay. You know, hey, if you want good teachers, you know, people's going to go where the money is. And, you know, if people can make more money in a factory or something else, that's what they're going to do. And you're going to be stuck with the rest that's teaching children. So, something to look at. I mean, they work for a living. There's a reason why all of us work. That's to make money to make a living. So, anyway, $350 million investment, which includes $125 million for teacher pay raises, and that's to bring them up to $50,000 a year starting pay within the next 4 years. Now, this one, ooh, I have a problem with this one. He wants to put a Homeland Security agent in all 95 counties. And the purpose of this, and let's make sure we understand this, Homeland Security is, tied to the feds. So he wants to put a federal agent in all 95 counties, and he's doing it under the guidelines or guidance, or, he's tying it to school safety. Now, all you have to do is turn on the TV, check out social media, and you'll see, Twitter. You can see how involved our federal law enforcement and everything is. Reckon how involved they would be in concerned parents showing up at a school board meeting concerned about things being taught in school. I have a problem with this. Federal Homeland Security agent in all 95 counties. Better think about that one. And he wants to fund covering the cost of diapers for 2 years for mothers on TennCare. So if a mother is on TennCare and has a baby, state wants to fund purchasing diapers for up to 2 years for that mother and that baby. Think about that. Now, I understand there's people out there that needs help. But what's the incentive of getting off of it? If I'm going to have to go to work, and if I go to work and start working, I might lose this extra help I'm getting. Does that keep me from wanting to go to work? You know the old story, don't feed the bears because they become dependent on it. Think about it. This is what we're doing with TennCare. Then he's wanting to invest $50 million into nuclear energy. The investment, and it's cleaner than coal, stuff like that. But invest in that here in the state of Tennessee. Make your own decision. But as I looked through and I sat through this budget, his State of the State address, I hear all of this stuff talking about in his budget. what he wants to spend, what he wants to increase on spending. And nowhere the whole speech did I hear anything about cutting spending in certain departments and everything, reducing the size of the state government. None whatsoever. Not one time did I hear, we're going to reduce the size of this department. It's out of control. We're going to do this. We're going to shrink the size of our state government employees. Nothing. We're going to try to privatize anything. The only privatization that he wanted to do was the public-private partnership on toll roads, choice lanes. So somebody's going to make money on that, and they're going to use the government to do it, state government. But nowhere did he mention reducing the size of government in the state of Tennessee. Now, every year, these politicians, state politicians, come home at the end of the session, and they'll meet with their local Republican groups, their local grassroots groups in their surrounding county or wherever, and they'll talk to them, and they'll talk about, hey, we balanced our budget here in the state of Tennessee, and if we could only get the federal government to do that, boy, we'd be great. Well, here in the state of Tennessee, there's a constitution. The Constitution requires that the budget has to be balanced. What most of them will not tell you is 40% or over 40% of the state's budget is supported by federal dollars. And it's been that way for a long time. So instead of trying to reduce the size of state government and cutting what we're spending and trying to get off of the federal dollar so we can take more control over our state than being paid off by the feds, we got nothing. And they don't want to do anything. So we're just going to continue to grow how much of our budget, more and more of our budget being covered by federal dollars. And just be honest with you, the federal government owns us. And that's why when you see things like, boys involved in girls' sports, boys going into girls' locker rooms and things like that, when the feds push back on us, we say, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Because we know that the federal government owns us and we don't want to lose those dollars. Bill Haslam was bad for that. And nothing's going to change. Everybody wants to talk about so-called state rights. And if you've seen any of my videos about that, state powers. But we're never going to be able to take back our sovereignty as a state and push back on the federal government if close to 50% of our state budget is funded by the feds, by the federal government. And now he's wanting to involve it more and increase more spending. And no cuts anywhere that he announced. So I want you to, if you can, go watch it on YouTube. Just go on YouTube and search Tennessee State of the State Address 2023. Pull it up and watch it. And you'll see your Republican legislature, whenever they're spending money and announcing spending money and everything, all happy and clapping. So, as many people think here in Tennessee that we're conservative, red to the roots. Go look at the budget. Listen to what the governor said in his State of the State address, and you'll find that we're far from it. We've got a lot of work to do. And if we're ever going to reclaim our state sovereignty and push back and be a free and independent state, we've got a lot of work to do. So with that, I say go watch it and see what I'm talking about. Just don't take my word. You can see it. There were some things that I left out, but it was more spending, but at a smaller level. But check it out. And with that, I thank you. God bless you. Y'all have a great week. I hope to have another guest on here pretty soon. We talk about the abortion issues here in the state of Tennessee. So have a great week. God bless you. And we'll see you again on the next podcast. Bye bye.